From the earliest known depictions of the Earth, it's always been flat and enclosed by a dome. The Egyptians, Norse, Hindus, Mayans, Incas, Navajos, Hebrews, etc. all knew that the Earth is flat and covered by the firmament.
The moon will devour your negative energy if you let her. If you offer it freely and you ask her out loud, she will happily receive whatever it is you have to offer. Unlike her husband, the sun, who gifts us the occulted knowledge necessary for self-actualization. But his gift is hidden in vibration. The 528 hertz frequency that you hear right now is the same frequency at which the sunlight kisses your skin. The sun will give you divine knowledge if you ask for it. He will feed your soul like a spoonful of honey through the eyes and into the mouth of your mind. Each day, when the sun is low in the sky and at a sufficient distance away, stare into Source and allow the torus field of heart magnetism that fuels your greatness to expand endlessly as you take in the many blessings of the sun.
There it is. Check it out, guys. That is so exciting. Incredible.
Hello my friends, I'm Kyle Thompson. This is Research Flat Earth. And as always, welcome back.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Alright, we're out here on the streets of Denver about to blow some Clopies' minds. It's a little hot out here, but I think we'll have some impact. Hopefully we get some open-minded people, not some complete sheep, but we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be great whatever happens. We're gonna wake up people about what's happening, or they can just look it up themselves, you know. It's all up to them what they want to do.
Let's hit it. Let's do it. Aware that we live on a flat, motionless plane and not a spinning planet?
Good point.
Spinning planet.
Woo! Have you heard of this theory?
Yes.
And what do you think about it?
Well, my hair is round like the Earth.
Yes?
Maybe not. Maybe so. It's the Froller system.
It's the Froller system.
Yes. Everybody's picking on me.
Oh, that's the
It's actually a globe round.
Nope.
No, it's flat.
Research it, man.
Research it before you Google. Go to Google right now.
You can't walk off the edge.
We never said you could walk off the edge, but we don't know.
Show you 10 reasons
Why is NASA faking their footage show? They are. We can show you exactly how they're faking their footage with CGI techniques, green screen. All right, so we're out here on the streets of Denver in front of the belly of the beast, the good old Federal Reserve robbing the goddamn blind. But anyway, we're out here on the streets telling people that NASA shows them cartoons and tells them it's real. They've never seen a real picture from space, ever. All ISS footage is fake. Everything is fake. We live on a flat, motionless plane, and you've all been deceived. Satellites aren't real. None of them. Sounds crazy, but 99% of your internet comes from undersea, transatlantic, and trans-Pacific cables. Name one experiment to prove we're on a globe.
An experiment?
An experiment, a video, a picture, something.
I believe Aristotle did an experiment where he measured...
Aristophanes.
Well, first of all, that's thousands of years ago. Today, it's 2017.
Well, you should be able to do the experiment again. Came up with the same result.
But they
yeah,
can't.
so his experiment was the stick experiment where he like puts them in the ground in like very distant locations and then he measures the shadow angle.
Yeah.
However, if you bring the sun closer in, you get the same effect.
The Earth is flat, everybody. NASA's stealing your money.
He might be deceiving us.
Research it.
And I think
Research it. You guys should think critically about subjects before you just
Who
ridicule
came up
them.
with this?
Your
flat
teachers
Earth?
show you one side of something.
I want
You
to
should
say
research both sides.
2015, Tila Tequila and Bob BLB started talking about it on Twitter.
It's about 3 years.
Didn't Columbus already figure out that the Earth wasn't flat by crossing the ocean and then found another land?
Yeah.
You can actually circumnavigate the flat Earth as well.
So what does that mean?
So your teachers will tell you, right, when you're at the beach. Have you guys ever been to the beach, been in the water? And you see a ship disappear over the horizon, right? They'll tell you that they're disappearing over the curve of the Earth. You pull out a camera like that, zoom it, boom, right back into focus. Yep. It's not going over the curve of the Earth, it's going out of your eye's perspective.
You can observe the curve of the Earth.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
We have on flat land. By movies to view curvatures for content.
You don't see a curve from a plane, you don't see it. No. Just look into it. Mark Sargent,
look into it.
Earth is flat. Oh, he's got the NASA hat on. Oh, okay. You think NASA's telling you the truth? Research CGI, my friend.
That's one of the most beautiful things to do. Now remember this, Earth is flat.
See, listen. The
So
Earth
don't
isn't
fall
flat.
off this bitch.
We ain't gonna fall off, but don't worry. Thank you, man. You have a good day, brother.
Where the way land is flat. How could it not be flat?
How could it not be flat? How could we be a
Yeah, I thought about that earlier.
Yeah. So, hey man, do yourself just do me a favor. Ask some people to look into it. We want to try and get some people looking into it. So talk about it with some people. Converse with some people about it.
Yeah, I'll say look into it. I seen these guys shirt here. I don't know, not the space NASA words about it, Harvard NASA words, but land is flat, so why isn't the Earth flat?
Flat. Just tell them to research flat Earth.
Land is flat, why isn't the Earth flat?
Thank you, brother. You have yourself a good day and be safe, all right?
You guys too.
Thank you. All right, brother.
So here is our chance to kick some ass for Mother Earth.
I'm listening.
Well, I've narrowed your choices down to 5 unthinkable options. Each will cause untold misery.
I picked number 3.
You don't even want to read them first?
I was elected to lead, not to read. Number 3.
From the earliest known depictions of the Earth, it's always been flat and enclosed by a dome. The Egyptians, Norse, Hindus, Mayans, Incas, Navajos, Hebrews, etc. all knew that the Earth is flat and covered by the firmament.
Those same cultures also believed the sun was poured across the sky in a barge, or that humans are made of corn. Perhaps you shouldn't put your scientific eggs in those baskets.
Which is basically an impenetrable barrier encapsulating the flat plane. The flat Earth model dominated for thousands of years.
Wrong.
It wasn't until 1543 that Nicholas Copernicus proposed the heliocentric model of the universe.
What the fuck does Copernicus have to do with the flat Earth? His heliocentric model was up against the geocentric model, which was based around the globe Earth. Indigenous flat Earth beliefs had been shown wrong thousands of years before Copernicus came on the scene.
But even with that, flat earthers and the flat Earth model still went strong all the way up into the 1900s.
The entirety of flat Earth literature consists of indigenous religious beliefs and a couple books from the early 1900s. This is the evidence ODD puts forth to claim that
flat earthers and the flat Earth model still went strong all the way up into the 1900s.
You are correct. It does not compute.
So we see from the beginning of time all the way until the 1900s, the flattened stationary Earth was going strong. In all honesty, flat Earth has never died. But for the sake of this video, we'll say up into the early and mid-1900s. In a magazine from August 1931 called Popular Science, explorer Auguste Piccard went on record stating, "It seemed a flat disk with an upturned edge after ascending 10 miles high on a balloon."
I am honestly at a loss as to how fucking stupid flat Earth arguments can get. One offhand sentence in a newspaper interview with a 1930s explorer can carry more weight than nearly 50 years of NASA exploration. One fucking sentence.
10 miles is only a little over 50,000 feet. Today we have balloons going up to 121,000 plus feet, which is almost 23 miles, and the Earth still shows nothing but flatness. Not to mention, the horizon remains at eye level at that height, something that would not be possible if the Earth was a sphere. Mainstream science says that curvature becomes visible at 35,000 feet. It simply is not so. Now let's run through another timeline, the timeline of trying to hide the flat Earth. Now we're gonna exclude Copernicus here. We know that heliocentrism, spinning ball Earth, has been pushed since the 1500s.
The spinning ball Earth, as you like to call it, has been taught since the times of Plato, not the 1500s. You should get your facts straight.
Isn't it ironic?
But it wasn't until the 1900s that moves were made to hide the true shape and nature of the Earth.
That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Let me handle this. That idea is just the worst.
In fact, they started programming us in 1912, before Earth's shape was even proven, supposedly.
It boggles my mind how flat earthers can continuously deny all the science of the last 2,000 years. Hell, Islamic astronomers measure the circumference of the Earth to 17 kilometers of its true circumference around 1000 AD. How did you not come across this information in all of your research?
Keep firing, assholes!
With the founding of Universal Pictures, we have been shown a spinning globe before every movie by that company for over 100 years. But anyway, that started in 1912, and we kept cruising, and kept cruising, and in 1946, we have Operation High Jump, where an expedition to Antarctica was led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Wait, that's your segue? You go from Universal Studios to Admiral Byrd? Really? Okay.
They say they went to Antarctica to train, test equipment, and test the possibilities of establishing and maintaining military research bases.
Oh, okay.
They claim to have charted the Antarctic coastline during this time. Who knows what else they found? Fast forward a little bit.
What is this shit? There was an expedition, and everything went well. Or did it?
1955, Operation Deep Freeze. This is just an expansion of High Jump, where more research bases are added to Antarctica.
Oh, look at me, I'm shaking in my little space boots.
Fast forward a little more, 1958. NASA is established. Followed by the proposal of the Antarctic Treaty in 1959, and the implementation of it in 1961. The treaty basically puts Antarctica off limits to civilians, with the exception of guided tours that are carefully supervised.
The Antarctic Treaty does none of what ODD is claiming. In fact, Article 7 explicitly states that observers to Antarctica have complete freedom of access at any time to any and all areas of Antarctica. Go read it for yourself. In order to go to Antarctica, your government needs to know, of course, in the same way you need clearance to travel to any country. If you want to tour Antarctica unguided and unsupported, you can. People have been doing it since 2010. There is no conspiracy here, just lazy research.
In 1962, Operation Fishbowl takes place. Now this is where people start thinking that they found the firmament or dome during Operation High Jump or Operation Deep Freeze, because for some reason, they started firing nuclear missiles straight up as if trying to mess with the firmament somehow.
That doesn't make sense.
And not to mention the name of the project, Fishbowl, easily symbolic for the enclosed nature of our world.
A fishbowl has an open top, you jackass. Even your bullshit analogy about the name doesn't work. Anyways, Operation Fishbowl was a real experiment done by the US Department of Defense as a continuation of high-altitude ballistics work done 4 years earlier, and in response to Soviet missile tests. As for its goals,
one objective concerned ICBM acquisition, tracking, and intercept problems. Another objective dealt with the evaluation of ICBM damage and kill mechanisms. A third objective concerned communications blackout, that is, the loss of signals due to disturbances in the ionosphere caused by high-altitude detonations.
A lot of people don't believe in nukes, nuclear weapons, but I obviously can't confirm one way or the other. Just do your own research.
if you are honestly shocked that there are people out there that do not believe nuclear weapons exist, you must be new to the internet. Welcome to hell, my friends.
Bring in the dancing lobsters!
Okay, so the same year, 1962, JFK gives his famous
"We choose to go to the moon"
speech. Now, I think all of these events tie into these guys finding out about the true disposition of Earth, including the crystalline canopy that we can't get past. Keep that in mind.
And I base that on absolutely nothing.
They know we are trapped in and we can't leave. And they choose to pretend like we can leave, which comes back and bites them in the ass later. We'll get there, but let's continue.
Let me get this straight. So the evil Catholic Jew Mason lizards that run the world know it's flat and covered by an impenetrable dome, and choose to hide that fact by having the Greeks show the Earth is round 2,000 years ago. Then they mount expeditions to explore Antarctica in the 50s because 5 flat Earth books were published in the 1890s. Then they nuke the dome in the 60s, and when that doesn't work, they fake space missions for the next 50-60 years. And they make the Universal Movie Studio logo a spinning globe. Okay, I got it. Continue.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
4 years later, 1966, Lunar Orbiter 1 captures the supposed first ever picture of Earth from deep space.
It's a fake!
2 years after that, in 1968, Apollo 8 captures this.
It's a fake!
In 1969, they capture this after Apollo 11 lands man on the moon for the very first time.
It's a fake!
And in 1972, on their 6th and final trip to the moon, we get one of the most famous pictures of all time, the blue marble.
It's a fake!
These alleged pictures of Earth, especially 1972's blue marble, are the entire reason behind pretending to go to the moon in the first place.
It's not true. That's impossible.
The spherical Earth, flat Earth debate is over. All the ancient cultures of the world and all of the authors writing flat Earth books well into the 1900s are incorrect. The Earth is not flat. NASA has proved it. It's over. You live on a spinning ball, just like Universal Pictures predicted. Only one problem with that. It's now 2017. Curvature cannot be detected by anyone on Earth. Motion can't be detected, nor has it ever been proven, and now all of a sudden we can't figure out how to get past low Earth orbit.
If you have ever seen a flat Earth video, then you have seen this low Earth orbit clip compilation, so I'm skipping it. As for the points brought up, curvature can be shown, Earth rotation and motion can be shown. You just need to look for it. These are not issues for the rest of us on the round Earth, because we accept the truth when it's there. You don't have to be the victim of some grand conspiracy. I'm sorry, Flat Earthers. You are not Sarah Connor.
Low Earth orbit is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. So we'll say that we can't get past 1,200 miles, and that's a big problem because the moon, according to the heliocentric model, is about 237,000 miles away. Now that's a big difference. Why was it so easy to go to the moon 6 times between 1969 and 1972, but we can't go even 1% of that distance now in 2017? Yeah, 1%. We can't even go 1% of that distance.
Easy answer. The Apollo missions were shooting straight through the Van Allen belts. Any radiation damage would have been minimal. Modern NASA aims to spend more time outside of Earth's magnetic field, so they need technology that can survive that. NASA isn't racing to the moon, but building a sustainable base for space exploration.
Of course, they blame it on the idea of a radiation belt, but the truth is that the Van Allen belt is a cover story for the firmament. We live on a flat plane inside of an enclosed structure. It has always been this way, and it will always be this way.
Your words guide us.
We're dumb.
The ridiculous notion of us living on a spinning ball darting through infinite space is very new on the complete timeline of mankind. And at the rate things are going, it won't be around much longer. The deception of heliocentrism will have been a very short-lived attempt at removing man from his and her divine nature. This is ODD TV. Thanks for watching.
there's 22-year-long solar cycles of deadness and activity and deadness and activity. They started in the early Renaissance. And they peaked out around World War II, and now that we're in cycle 24, the sun's going dead, and it's not creating an ionosphere. It's like the solar cycles are ending. So today the solar flux is 140-something. It should be 200 and something. So the sun's only operating at half power right now for this part of the cycle. So you don't have the ionosphere that you need in order to communicate to other parts of the world. It's all dissipated.
So ham radio is dying.
Well, it made it so there was no ham radio available for a year during the minimum of the cycle. Now we're at the maximum, and the maximum is no better than a minimum. So now the question is when it goes into the minimum in the next 7 years, how dead is the sun going to get? The last minimum, it got record dead. The solar flux never dropped below 60, ever. This time it went down to 58. And you couldn't communicate via the ionosphere. So the sun can be reconfiguring for a cold, dead cycle, like in the Dark Ages. There's a popular book written on the subject called Jupiter Effect. It's actually fairly accurate.
The Jupiter Effect.
Yeah, it was about the total planetary alignment in 1980. And the solar flares that it was predicted to create, according to the RCA theory. And the solar flares happened just like they were predicted. Enough finally trip off Mount St. Helens. Solar flux went up to over 400. The Earth actually wobbled on its orbit from the coronal mass ejections hitting it.
When was this?
1980. October 1980.
Is that where you did the ceremony?
Where it controls all the frequencies. So if you don't know what the sun's doing, you don't know what frequencies to use. That's why RCA started radio astrology. You have to know what the sun's doing, and the planets tell you what the sun's doing. So RCA gave me the equipment, Sonoma State provided me with the place to do it, and the Cosmos provided me with the total planetary alignment. So I was the guy with the equipment and everything right there as the thing happened. I studied the whole event over the couple of years that the whole solar cycle built into this alignment. There's no inside structure.
Is it hollow?
Yeah, there's only a surface. There's nothing inside.
Is the sun actually, do you believe, combusting in on
It's
itself?
not burning anything. There's no fusion in the sun. That's well understood.
Proven.
Yeah, well, there's not the way to prove that there is any. It's only in the flares that you get fusion. That's why all the X-rays. The flares, the arcs, and the X-rays, and the microwaves, and whatever result of fusion in the arcs. There's no fusion in the sun. They don't know how the sun works.
Why do you, what's special, how does the sun make light?
It's a transformer. Transforms from some other dimension. It's not burning anything. It doesn't have to. It's a converter.
Of what?
I don't know. Nobody knows. But that's what it does. That's the only thing it can do, because that's how everything works.
It's transforming from another dimension.
Yeah, you could say it's taking energy from another dimension, counter space. There's no energy, actually. You can't. Most of it you can't even measure in outer space or see.
You can't see.
No, you can't see the sun in free space.
So the sun is not visible in outer space?
Not in free space. It's only invisible when gross matter becomes involved, like the Earth's atmosphere and envelope and the surface of the moon or whatever. That makes the light. Otherwise, there is no light. You can see the moon, you can see the Earth, but you can't see the sun or you can't see the stars.
But you can see the planets and the satellite.
Right. You can see material objects, but you cannot see the sources of light. There is no light until there's a material object.
To reflect off.
So that means there's no time delay. So the whole time delay thing is meaningless. It doesn't take light years. There are no light years because there's no light. So that means that the light you see from the distant stars isn't 4 million years old. It could be only minutes old. It could be instantaneous. All the theories collapse when you can't see the stars in outer space.
This is where you log the solar flares?
Well, whatever's going on in the day, the solar flux, the atmospheric pressure, the cloud types, any other particular interesting information. But these are the positions of the hurricanes. So this was E, whatever that one was. I don't bother with the names. There's letters. These are the ones. These occurred off of Baja.
Baja. Just recently?
Yeah. Well, this was in July. So that stuff moves up here and starts the thunderstorms. Yeah.
So,
well, nuclear fission is a religion. It's a law. Yeah. The world must believe. That's all there is. The sun is an atomic bomb burning in the sky. If you don't believe that, you're going to go to jail.
Okay, now, your theory on the sun, I want to get.
It's hollow.
So every planetary object is hollow, right?
All hollow. Well, the sun's definitely hollow, because I studied the sun for 4 years straight.
This is a question.
And it's obviously hollow. Okay. And the solar, the sunspots are holes that allow you to see inside.
Really?
Yeah. It's dark inside. The sun is well understood in radio physics and studying the ionosphere and sunspots and all that stuff that the sun does not operate by fusion. They do not know how the sun operates. The fusion only comes out of the arcs because of the current density. That's where the hydrogen fusion occurs, is in the actual arcs between the flares. The sun itself is not a fusion device.
So the fusion is in the effect of the
It's
flare.
a converter. Yeah, the sun is a converter from another dimensionality into this dimensionality, and obviously if you can't see it in outer space, the conversion's not complete until it hits the Earth's atmosphere or other physical object, and then it finally converts to electromagnetic light.
When it hits the ozone layer, it does.
Well, the Earth's envelope.
The Earth's envelope.
Yeah, Earth's envelope is undefined.
Undefined.
Yeah, but you have to get in the Wilhelm Reich about that. Like we were talking about how you can't see the stars anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So the sun, would you say, makes its quote-unquote energy through some electrical etheric process?
Yeah, because of its voltage, its position.
Would you call it some kind of etheric lamp? A lantern?
Yeah, it's like a giant Tesla lamp.
You know, in the
converter.
The sun is a converter.
Yeah. It's not burning anything.
So it's an etheric electrical
converter.
And
it's converting from primary force to secondary force.
And the conversion is complete once it hits the upper atmosphere of the
Yeah,
Earth.
then once the emission interacts with physical matter, then it reverts to its reduced form, the waste product, which is heat and light and mechanical activity. But it doesn't start off like that, and its origin is undefined because it comes from what people like to say another dimension, counter space.
Sunspots are holes inside.
They're holes in the hollow sun. There's a photosphere that generates the light, and it's contiguous. It's not contiguous. It's little things that move around.
Contiguous.
Yeah. It's an arrangement of little glowing spots, and it's dark in between. It's a veil. And that's where the illumination of the sun originates, is in that veil. It doesn't come from the inside. There's no nuclear furnace in the middle. There's none of that shit, and that's understood. When I studied this stuff in Sonoma State, that's understood. But they have to continue this popular image that the sun is a nuclear bomb burning in the sky.
Scarcity,
because that's everything's got to work on destruction.
Exactly, burning something, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the caloric theory, that's another
Yeah, whatever. It has to be the laws of thermodynamics. You have to pay. It has to be a meter. If you can't put a meter on it, it's not real.
Do you have any respect for Newton at all?
I'm going to keep going as long as I can go with it. I'm not changing tactics and switching. When you see me switching, when you see me coming on the YouTube saying, I don't believe the flat earth anymore, then you can assume that I've been tortured into that viewpoint. I don't believe the flat earth anymore, then you can assume that I've been tortured into that viewpoint. I don't believe the flat earth anymore, then you can assume that I've been tortured into that viewpoint. So, yeah, I'm going to be continuing with the flat earth video.
Even God has to build with something. I'm just saying. Sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I you know what? One of the things I appreciate about what Mark brings to the table as a video game programmer, especially now that I'm working on a video game too and starting to figure out how to program stuff like that, is if we are able to conceive of these things with our finite, limited human minds, then obviously the creator could have figured out the same thing. Like when I first started thinking about, the scriptures tell us in multiple places that the moon is a lesser light. It gives its own light. That's what it says in the text. And, you know, the tests we're going out there and showing, it doesn't appear to be a reflector because it's giving off completely different light. So I started to rack my brain. It's like, okay, how is this thing giving off its own light? And early on in my investigations, I created a 3D model showing how the moon could be self-illuminating. Now, there are problems with the model. I acknowledge that. But basically, I was able to create a 3D model that still allowed the moon to create its own phases if it was self-illuminating. And right after I did that, I ended up finding, I forgot who makes it, Hasbro or somebody, I don't remember who makes it, but the moon in my room, you can get it at Walmart. And, you know, it's this half sphere that you can stick up on your wall, and by remote control, you can click it, and it will go through the phases of an illuminated moon in your bedroom. I'm going, well, I mean, if toy manufacturers can figure this out, then surely the creator of this terrarium could figure it out as well. So to Mark's point, you know, from a programming perspective, sure, the creator could make these things however he wants. And this actually came up in the discussion this weekend in the Q&A, was when the Bible talks about a coming great delusion, a great deception that could be so great that even the elect could be deceived by it. Well, if you look at that text, it actually says God sends it. God is the one who sends the great delusion. So I was thinking about that. I was going, well, you know, this is certainly a wonderful candidate for the Great Delusion, because so many people are deceived by the spinning heliocentric globe thing that, I mean, wow. I mean, that's what makes evolution even remotely plausible. The whole ancient aliens thing, you know, all of that is only really possible with the, you know, Earth in a small corner of an ever-expanding universe idea. So I thought, what if the creator or the programmer of this simulation set things up in such a way that, depending on your preconceived bias and belief system, you could see it either way. In other words, if you go into this fully convinced that we're in a spinning heliocentric ball, you know, model in an ever-expanding universe, then all of your observations reinforce that belief. But if you go into it with the belief that the Bible means exactly what it says and says what it means, then we're in a snow globe. Well, I mean, I could say for myself, as soon as I had that seed planted in my head, you know, like the movie Inception, you know, once I had that planted in my head, that's all I see now. Everything I look around, everything looks different. It doesn't look like it used to look like before. So, you know, I'm wondering if that's the way it was all, if this matrix, if you will, was programmed, that it's up to the observer to decide what it is that we're actually seeing.
Very interesting. And I know, but David Weiss, what did you have to add?
No, I was actually just thinking back. I wanted to comment. Mark had a guy on from the Armed Services talking about his experience there, but he was also very religious, and he was talking about the Bible a lot. And he brought up a really good point, which it kind of rang with me, that the reason that, you know, ball supporters act so violently when presented with flat earth truth, I call it, is because the entire ball earth concept is a satanic concept to separate us from God. And when, you know, when that is influencing you and you're trying to break free, it's kind of like an exorcism, you know, when the priest is coming up trying to throw some truth at the person, they react violently. And, you know, people are reacting unlike themselves, very negatively, you know. Going back to Tiger Dan, look at the way this guy's reacting from the Tiger Dan we knew earlier. There is some satanic influence in there, and I really can't even believe I'm saying this at this point because I never believed in any of this stuff.
Yeah, and David and I were talking about this morning, and he's absolutely right. Find me, and I'm sure all you guys would agree, find me another topic, and I don't care what it is, you know, church versus state, abortion, take your pick. I have never seen a topic generate this much polarization before, to where, and you'd think it's just two words, it's just flat earth, where people are just swinging in the forums. I mean, just going at it. So it's just amazing to me. Yeah, it's like they're locked in, and trying to break out of it is actually more painful than when you're trying to accept it, you're going through pain trying to get your head in the flat earth world. It's amazing.
Okay, so we're going to see
Why is it that flat earth just as a topic went completely bonker and went completely viral? And it's also a response to the people who say, hey, obviously, look at this. This is a psyop. And I completely disagree. And I believe this argument is based on more of ignorance of human action than actual, tangible fact. You know, it's just conjecture. Say, hey, look at this. This is obviously a psyop, which is what I see out there on the internet. And this is me doing my case of the who, what, where, and how this happened in 2015 and beyond. Now, let me first start by saying flat Earth is completely different than any other topic. You know, it's been more than 6 months that I'm completely fascinated by the topic, and I haven't been fascinated by any other topic like that, like, you know, 9/11 or GFK or all of those other topics, you know, that long and so intensely. Primarily because flat Earth as a topic is something that you and me can go out there and check for ourselves. With all of these other conspiracy, it's very, you know, tedious to go check out the primary sources. Most of people are consumer of conspiracy theories and conspiracy narrative or facts, but they're not much researchers. And that's what I think really makes a difference, is that when people go check it out for themselves with their 5 senses and they grasp it, the illogical aspect of a spherical Earth, they become believer on a whole different level than if they just listen to a bunch of documentaries, having a few people with, you know, authority telling them the story. Now, let me start with what I think is going on when someone call this thing a psyop or someone a shill. I think it's simply a knee-jerk reaction to explain something they can't explain any other way. And it's an ad hominem. You know, it's an attack on the character of something, on the trait. So they look at this, they look at the flat Earth, and they can't conceive why this thing goes viral. They don't understand what makes people share it so much on social media, and so on and so forth. So they simply do name calling so that they don't have to defend their argument. And that's the beautiful thing with calling someone a shill or saying this piece of information is a psyop, is that they have no basis in evidence, yet people buy it. You know, it's like someone say, hey, I think we should revise our policy on immigration. And on the mainstream media, they say, well, this person is a racist. And that's it. The person is dismissed and his argument forgotten. And I think that's what's going on when someone say, oh, flat Earth, it's a psyop. Or it's not organic. It's completely organic. And I will expose the who, what, when, and how it happened. Now, I'm going to revisit a little bit of my story of how I came to change my belief about the shape of the Earth. And I think it's not going to be that different than you who's listening right now. For me, it started with a podcast I was a fan of, which was Anarchast. And Eric Dubé came in, and I couldn't listen to it. I couldn't get myself to listen to this podcast. When I saw the title in my newsfeed, I was just, this is ludicrous. This is ridiculous. But then one day I was bored. I needed to clean my house and have a podcast, and that was the only one I didn't listen to yet. So I said, whatever, I'm just going to listen to it. And then at the end of it, I found myself painted in a corner, not being able to actually do any name calling anymore. I was like, wow, we did exposed a really good case. And I can't even debunk it. And then I went on to debunk it. I went out there, took my binoculars, and I was living by the ocean, so I chose a few landmarks with Google Map and did the curvature test, which would turn negative, obviously, like many of us who's listening right now came to. So this was very powerful, and it completely took over my life, like many of us. Couldn't get myself to just ignore it. I had to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, how does this viral thing happen? Well, as you can see here, it starts with 1 or 2 people being able to spread a message. And it first started with Eric Dubé. Eric Dubé came in November with his first video was the Flat Earth Conspiracy. Love him or hate him, he's a great explainer. He's a great interviewer on podcast. He did an amazing job on the first podcast I listened to. And this is what compelled me to wanting to debunk him. So it started on November. As you can see here, that's November. November here, he releases the Flat Earth Conspiracy, and then go on different podcasts such as the Higher Side Chat, and maybe a few people on every one of those podcasts listened to him and did exactly like I did. And then it snowballed. And this is what you need. You need a good people at the beginning to expose the idea. And you also need the idea to be very powerful. Now we had the second person who came on the scene, which was Mark Sargent. Came out with his Flat Earth Clues, which were bite-sized, easy-to-digest narrative rather than hardcore facts, which also had a lot of success. Sorry about that. Now, what makes this topic go viral? It's as close as it gets to a religious concept. Ever since we're baby or very young in school, we see where we live, our cosmology of who am I, where am I, what's the meaning of life. Well, that's pretty much it. You know, it can all be represented with this symbol. You know, it's really, when you think about it, the ball Earth, most people believe in it, yet they have no evidences for it. It's like God in many ways. It's a symbol that people identify with, that's been drilled into their brain. Not to say that God doesn't exist, it's just that in terms of evidence, there's a lot of faith around it, and it's very deep. It answers the meaning of life, pretty much. And that's what the ball Earth is. And when you challenge that, and you give a different cosmology, you get the recipe for viral growth. First, you have highly emotional. You know, no one is lukewarm to this topic. You know, you get an instant reaction of opposition or intrigue or whatever the emotion, you have an emotion when the topic is brought up. Second thing is you have extreme polarization. You know, there's no middle ground of, oh yeah, it could be a ball or it could be something, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. No, that's not what you get. You get people say, hey, it's absolutely a ball, and other people say it's absolutely flat. And there's no middle ground. There's no compromise between the two. It's like Republican and Democrats. You know, it can say, it doesn't matter really, I want both. You know, no, there's no such thing as that. People are polarized by this topic extremely. So we have those two things, and we have those people who came early in the scene, and then which brought other people on scene, like Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole and Rob Skiba and Patricia Steer, and you go on and on and on of people that it first started with very few people, but the idea catch on because it's a very, very, very powerful idea. I think they tried to keep the lid on it with the Flat Earth Society, making it always the topic of ridicule, always bringing it up, associated with people who question global warming for some very strange reason, because whoever's in control they're not really in control. They're doing public relation. And they knew that if this idea catched on, there would be no stopping it. There's no way for me to be convinced through an argument that the Earth is a ball. The only way you're going to convince me it's a ball is if I can go to the moon, stay at a resort for a weekend, and watch it and see the ball rotating. Because everything else, to me, has been debunked. And I would see it. I need to see it with my eyes to actually stop believing that it's flat. You know, there's no going back. And like it, you know, I can share some of my analytics here. We can see that it's just people share this stuff. And people share when it's very, you know, when there's an appeal to emotions, when it's an appeal to belief, it touches people on a very deep level. And it's like, let's say you have some people have a religious, let's say they're Christian or Muslim or Hindu. Could you imagine yourself having a spouse that doesn't embrace your faith or your belief? It's almost impossible. You know, it's like, you know, I couldn't imagine Rob Skiba having a secular wife. It just wouldn't work. It would just not be compatible. And that's what's happening, is that we find ourselves in our families and friends and being alone, having this belief and wanting to, and we're compelled to share it because it makes so much sense. Also, it has an appeal to logic. It has an appeal to intelligence, because once you figure that out, you actually feel like you got smarter. You actually feel you've been, you know, the wool has been pulled out of your eyes, and that you're actually seeing the real world for the first time, just like Neo in the Matrix. We're compelled to share it. And this is what I believe created this. Like 100%. I have no doubt it's not a psyop. It's just this thing having the right people at the right time, going out there, going on podcasts, sharing the idea, having a very strong case. Now, let me just put a caveat at the end of this video, and because you're here, thank you so much for listening to the video until the end. But, you know, it's not going to go viral in 2016, and not viral, I mean mainstream. Look at, you know, the Kardashian. If we compare the Flat Earth to the Kardashian, it's kind of sad to realize this state of the world, but, you know, the Kardashian are, you know, have nothing to envy the Flat Earth. You know, they're much more mentioned, and we're not going to go mainstream 2016, but we're going to keep on going viral and expose more people to the idea, and they're going to make their own mind. And I think it's going to make a difference. I don't know when. I don't know how. We can only look back with a hindsight of 2020. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next video.
If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed, hit the red subscribe button. Also click on the little bell icon to get notifications of my Flat Earth videos, which I upload every day.